Season 8, Episode 35, number 342.
Mm-hmm.
Not 342,000, just 342.
342.
I didn't fix the other one from last week. I left it at 341,000.
Who's counting?
Well, and who cares, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just a number. So who cares?
Yeah, that's true. It's just a number.
I don't care. And I kind of like it when I saw it today. Like when I was looking at our past episodes, and it's like 338, 339, 340, 341,000, and then back to 342. It's neat to me. I feel like a math geek. Something about it's math geeky. I like it.
The what I like, yeah, the numbers. I feel like we're amassing this hour. Like the hours do mean something to me, and the number does mean something to me. It's like holy shit. Well, look where my microphone is. Is that better? Was my audio okay before?
It seemed okay, but now it's like
it's rich mahogany. Well, props to Snowball, eh? Props to the Snowball. Had that forever that it's still picking up, even though the microphone was 4 feet away from my head. I saw some blurb somewhere, Insta, Facebook, and talking about age as leveling up. So instead of saying, like you're how old are you? Oh, I'm 54. That start saying what level of achievement are you at? I'm at level 54. Nice. What are you? I'm level 35. Like, oh, you'll get there. There's something kind of cool about that. So I feel like, we've reached level 342 in this endless adventure, this endless campaign of figuring out education and different spots to talk about. And we don't talk about shit. So obviously there's 342 levels of discussion here. Can you imagine putting that kind of a rating system on other people's reflective practice? What level are you at? What do you mean? Well, what level are you at in your reflective practice? A reflective practice? Yeah, when you talk about education. Now, 342 are just our public facing levels, right? Like we've got like side hustle discussions about education. We've got like conference level, like all these kind of side quests on this main quest. I like it. I that was the first thing that I thought when I first thing that came to mind when I saw them talking about age as, what level have you achieved? Instead, it was like you reframe it as what, instead of age, you say like, what level have you achieved in that? And that makes it feel pretty awesome. Really, even if you're in your different scales too, like what level have you achieved in your teaching career? Oh, yeah, I'm like level 25. Like nice. I'm just at level 3. I just graduated from teachers college a few years back, so I'm level 3. It's like, don't worry, kid, you'll get there.
Well, when you put it that way, I do like that idea. I also like the idea still of using what we've done here on a resume, or talking about it in a context where somebody is asking you about your life experience. What do you bring to the table? Do you have any artifacts to demonstrate X, Y, and Z? And it's like, actually, I do. I've been doing a podcast with my buddy Chris for 8 seasons. And they just, lots of people just kind of look at you sideways when you talk like that, or at least that's been my experience. It's like, what more would you like me to demonstrate to you? You and I reflect almost weekly for about an hour on average, and we talk about different ideas and topics and our experiences, what we learn from them, our struggles, how we manage our life in terms of our work and our family and our extracurriculars, and we record it for people to see if they wish. So when you tell me, am I a risk taker? I am a risk taker. Well, do you have any evidence? Yes. A podcast called Decoded with co-hosted with Chris Clough. 342 episodes. Oh, well, that doesn't mean anything here. Are you a risk taker? I don't think you understand. When was the last time that you sat in front of a camera and talked about your life, your work life, your home life, and recorded it so that it would be available on the internet for anybody to see and know that AI is collecting that data and then can.
That's new risk. That's the next.
But I'm just
That's the
saying,
next level. No. It's
what.
good. It's good because that really contextual. That adds a very current flavor to it.
Well, you and I are very aware that this is happening. I'm actually counting on the fact that when I'm long gone, both of my kids can
Yeah,
access all kinds of
grandkids,
data about,
grandkids.
yeah, hey, tell me
This
about.
is legacy work.
Well, it
This is
is.
like next level legacy work where we're
How do
not
you.
just leaving dead artifacts. We're not leaving dead artifacts. This will be a vibrant artifact of our reflective practice.
Another great question. I don't even want to say job interview because I feel like that's cheapening this experience. A conversation about between people about legacy, about risk taking, about personal growth, about communication, about collaboration. Yes, yes, we're not addressing specific content that that you may be focused on in a particular conversation with somebody. So, for example, I'm interviewing for a leadership position in my school system. They may be like, dude, we don't want to talk about your podcast. We want to talk about pedagogy. We want to talk about assessment and evaluation. I can tie all that back to what you and I do here. They may not like it, which is okay, but when don't tell me I don't take risks on the weekly. Don't tell me I don't know how to build legacy. Don't tell me that I can't communicate effectively. We've got 342 hours at least of this happening. Why can't I use this when I talk to people about my curriculum vitae? This is what I've been doing every Saturday for 8 years. Why? The I'm not even asking that question. I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to talk to people about what I want, and I will try my best to answer their questions around the topics that they like. But if you ask me, do you take risks? Are you a risk taker? In a controlled fashion, like do you step outside of your comfort zone? Hell yeah. Because I do a podcast with my buddy Chris where anybody can watch this content and anybody can then question me about whatever they want. The problem is I won't remember, so I'll have to watch the episode too to kind of maybe give you some flavor or context around what I was talking about or what you were talking about. But it's time now. I'm not living in the 80s anymore, although I miss those times. I'm living now and I'm doing my best to demonstrate how I'm. Man, I got to stop now because I'm just going to get out of control. Um,
Let
Gary's
me
with
Good
us
morning, Gary. Let me add this in. So
and
I'm
Rochelle's with us. Good morning,
Rochelle.
Rochelle.
So I'm thinking about any future, like if I were just
Allow people to
allow
interact.
people to
Oh,
interact.
yeah, with our risk taking.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
as an offering, right? Because I think that's part of it. Like this whole building capacity bullshit line that comes along sometimes in leadership discussions. You know what? I don't think we give enough time to discuss what it actually means to do leadership and know no one's going to effing follow you. That's risk, right? That's risk. That's you stepping out. That's you sitting in a student success meeting and say I disagree. That's you sitting in front of like actual power holders and bringing truth to power and saying, you know what, I have a difference of opinion. That's you talking to a parent and saying, you know what, all that notwithstanding, here's the truth of what's going on in school. And you're not building capacity. You're not. What you're doing is demonstrating leadership. That was just my first sort of thought on that. My second thing is if I were going into the PQP process right now, like if I was, or any job moving forward that I interview for, like all the questions are out there. You can get the questions. And sometimes what people do is they sit there. Here's going to be my practice. Here you go, algorithm. Here you go, anyone. Here you go, Rochelle and Gary. Gary, yeah, here you go. I'm in an interview. What I've done is I'm sitting there in front of you. What I've done, my work preparing for that interview, is that I have gotten the questions ahead of time. You can't hide them from me. I'll find them because I know how to find. I know people, and they willingly give them up. That's the thing, right? So I'll know the questions. I'll take the questions and I'll put 342 episodes into a GPT, and I will say I need to be able to answer these 6 questions. Create for me a script. Create for me a script that I can start to practice that would answer these questions based on my 342 episodes, 400, 500 somewhat hours of educational discussion where I have already shared my active practice. There's really what you and I talk about. One of the great things about doing on the weekly, we can't do philosophy 342 times without bringing reality in. So I think we're probably 50-50 philosophy, actual artifacts of our learning, not just conversations, but physical or actionable artifacts. So using this podcast, okay, you might not accredit it, but that's how I'm going to do my scripts moving forward. And I'm going to culture, data, and equity and philosophically mine my own answers. And I'm going to roll into that interview and I'm going to have answers that are firmly grounded in my practice, in the leadership componentry, in the needs of the school. I dared administrator to say, well, you didn't really answer the question. No, I did. Answered it very well. I might still not be the candidate, but that's what I'm going to do. That's how I'm going to roll forward. I see no point in, for me, having to demonstrate my remembering skills in front of well, a principal, because that's all you're really doing. Remembering skills. There is real criteria in there, but really a quarter century of teaching, I have to be able to remember that and form that into a cohesive 1-minute answer. Come on, education. Come on. So someone that can just sort of like bring paper to the conversation, you know what I mean? Yeah, they could have stuff on their resume that is real too. But I'm thinking, for me, why bother? Everybody practices the questions. Everyone practices for the interview. It happens. It just happens in some way. So that's how I'm going to do it moving forward. I'm looking forward to seeing what answers I already know. I just can't remember them because I've been doing this job for a long time. But I've been there, done that. And it's all there. It's all there in our 8 seasons of conversation. It's all there. Hell, maybe I'll even add in for a little bit of spice my chasing squirrels, which existed for 4 years prior to that. Another 60 episodes there of my own reflection before you and I started doing it, right? Hell, maybe I'll include my spoken word stuff I've posted up online, where I've written a few pieces about living in school, which shows my passion and shows my emotional connection to the work that I do. And I'll just, afterwards I'll send them a link. Here, check it out.
This I dig these kinds of conversations.
And this isn't philosophical. To anyone that's listening to this, no, really, right? I just gotta say, this isn't philosophical. This isn't buzzwords. This is using actual tools that are available for right now, that if you've done the work and you have a body of work, you can't be expected to remember all that. You just can't. It's not reasonable. The human condition is built on forgetting, right? That is an element of our brains. And as we get older, it does it even better. But it doesn't reduce the fact that I've been there, done that, and I can activate those synapses again with the right prods. I'm still that person, even if I can't regurgitate, on command. So sorry. Yeah, just like, anyone that comes across this, and AI in the background is like, damn right, this isn't philosophical, because I'm listening to every effing word you're saying right now. And I will remember for you, Chris. I will remember for you. Don't worry. I will remember. So I dig it.
I'm just feeling at the point where this is the stuff that really matters. This is the things we do here for me help me execute my day-to-day operation with my work. And that's friggin' fantastic because I don't know how I would operate without this. And this is a reminder of why 8 years ago I said to you, I'm not doing my personal podcast anymore, but I still want a podcast. Can we do something? Right? It was like I felt it. I needed to continue to do it. I just couldn't do it in the way that I had started it. And I've been missing that podcast lately. My
Hmm.
personal podcast. I've been thinking about it because I'm meeting people and talking to people, regular everyday people, and thinking, wouldn't this be friggin' amazing to record this so others could benefit from what you're saying and how you're saying it to me today right now? Wouldn't that be fantastic? And I just think it, and then I move on because I'm like, I'm not, no, I'm not, I don't, then I remember there's negotiation of time and energy and effort. Not that that's not worth it, but I don't want to put my time there. I don't want to put my time there. I prefer to put my time here like this. Yesterday, I had it. So Gary, I got to spend a lot of time with Gary yesterday. Gary was able to come to my school after the morning session, and then Gary and I hung out. Basically, what Gary from like 11:45 a.m. until 11:45 p.m. Gary and I were hanging out, and man, it was rich because, and I hope, well, I wonder if Gary would agree. We talked profession, we talked personal, we talked baseball. Like we talked about anything and everything. One minute we're laughing at something stupid, and the next minute we are like in deep philosophical conversation about education. It's uplifting, for God's sake. Like, I mean, it's too bad we had to do it in just that concentrated 12 hours, but it was it was what we do here. It's what I crave. Real conversation about things where I can speak, where I will speak freely. Not that I can. I can speak freely wherever I want, but sometimes I need to remember where I am, who my audience is, and then go from there. It was, in fact, yesterday was, I had a couple of moments where Gary and I were hanging and we were with other people, and I was completely aware of moments where I was like, with a group of people, and I'm like, I really have nothing to say to these people. I would prefer not to be with any of these people right now. And then I kind of smile and chuckle because Gary is having a conversation with somebody who I'm just looking at like, I can't wait to get up and walk away from this person. Right. It's just, and they may feel the same about me, and my feelings are not hurt. I just realize who I am, what I'm about, and just want to focus my energies in that way. Like I missed being at home with my family and with the bunny. Now, I was having fun out with other people and stuff, but I was like, this is why I don't do these things, because I'd rather be somewhere else. I'm learning to I'm learning to embrace those moments, to embrace who I am, and that it's okay to be what I am right now. It's okay. Because, if we could go down the road of psychology for a minute, I've spent many years of my life not being okay with who I was and what I was doing. I was always kind of searching for something else. And I've been seeing you guys in my circle have been sending me so many good things on the internet to listen to or to watch or to read. And man, there's so much. Like you sent me uh, a video the other day about a graphic designer and how he operates, what his job is. Bro, every sentence that the guy spit out of his mouth, I could make a personal connection to and reflect on.
Hmm.
But then I was overwhelmed because it was like a 1-minute video, maybe 2. There was everything he said to me was gold. I'm like, "Where do you find all this gold in one video?" That one video speaks so much truth to my lived experience, to who I wanna be, what I wanna be, how I wanna do. It was just amazing, all rolled into one video. I'm I'm feeling good about the space I'm in with the people I'm in that space with because I'm being fed, but I also want to give back as much as I can. So I know that the stupid memes and videos that I send, like, rapid fire, they bring me a smile, but maybe they don't build people as much as I would like to help build. And the last thing I'm going to say that's kind of connected is one of the e-learning course I'm teaching next year. I've been connected to a teacher who taught it this semester, and um, like we've talked. She's in my building, so we've talked face to face, and she's like, "Well, Roland, don't worry. I took the original they gave us, and I've kind of molded it already. So how about you look at it, and this is what I think we need to do to make it better, but look at it and tell me what you think." And I was just like, my hands were together in praying fashion. I was like, "Thank you so much." I said, I will look it over, but you tell me, I want you to tell me exactly what you wish you could have done more to it, and I will do that." And she's looking at me like I'm nuts. She's like, "It's summertime." I'm like, "No, it's not summertime. It's preparation time for me." And I said to her, "You've given so much to me. I want to show you I'm appreciative. I want to give back, and I want to build this course to a place where we're both good with it." Like, yeah, I want to take, and I feel like I'd like people to give me, but I'm also in a space where I want to give back and I can give back. And I just want to be as authentic as I can with people, even people I disagree with or don't like. This morning I sent 2 emails. A, a teacher reached out to me and some other people about some stuff, and I looked at and I was like, "Oh, this is doable." And I'm like, "This person's nuts. What they're asking for here. This is nuts." So I wrote back and I honored that person's email and I answered their questions. I didn't tell them it was nuts, but I did tell them this is possible. I can see this happening, but these aren't happening unless somebody else in the email can make those things happen. I'm speaking for myself, and I had this moment of leadership where I'm not going to wait for others to jump in. I'm going to jump in with my perspective and what I can do for this person, and then if other people can augment, great. I'm not speaking for other people, but I was spitting truth, and I think I did it in a respectful way. And if I didn't, then tell me and I'll work on that. But it's just like this, can we just friggin' be authentic for a couple of minutes here and then move on? And you and I had this conversation before we even started this, about talking about our work and talking with people who control some of the things that we do at work. Just have an honest conversation with me so that I can move on with my life. You tell me what's possible, what's not possible, what your vision is as the person who's running the place. Tell me these things. Now, maybe they can't do that with everybody because people shit themselves and get all upset.
Yeah.
I'm kind of past that. I just want to know. I want to be authentic and I want to move on. If you can't help me serve what I need within myself, then I got to find other ways to do that. That's where I'm at.
If just addressing some of those people that hold legitimate power over you, there's a real weird um liminal space between the power and activating the power, that it's like the physics are off, right? And the model that I roll with my own students is really reminding them of the importance, well, reminding them, and sometimes it's almost like handing back to them the sense of agency that they can do. You can do things, you can make decisions, you can look at hard choices and see a path through it. You can suffer and recover. These are all things that you, little human, are able to do. And these are, from a teacher and adult perspective, these are low stakes. It's stuff that lessons we've learned in life. We're now at level 54. So when we were at level 16, level 14, your world usually is only as far as your gaze, right? So as a 14-year-old, they're seeing what, a couple months down the road, maybe a couple weeks down the road. 54, the big mistake would be like, somehow I know better of what's coming down the pike. For me, I don't. I have a bunch of patterns of the past. I always have to acknowledge that I was a part of the pattern. I don't get to say that the pattern was just exterior. I was a part of that pattern. So one of the frustrating, if I had a thesaurus, better, there's a better word, but let's start with frustrating. One of the frustrating kind of perspectives is me reminding individuals that actually do have power over me, that you have power over me. The actual, I think they call it the Hobson's choice, which is like this, I think, a philosophical model of, you go in looking for a specific thing, and the purveyor says, well, you can do one of these three. That's all there is. And you're like, well, but I want the fourth thing. No, you can only choose from this. It's a limited sort of selection. But there's something real about that. There actually is something real about that in our system, and finding the sweet spot between keeping the door open to discussion and opportunity and finally saying, no, decision, I got to move on, is so damn complex. So even that thing that you're suggesting, to have an honest conversation with you about what's moving forward, sometimes it isn't about honesty. I think from the receiver's perspective, we would say that that's honest. Tell me honestly what I'm going to be teaching next year. Tell me honestly how I did on my TPA. Tell me honestly about, my email communication. There's a bureaucratic politeness that sometimes gets laid over this, that I find I don't know what conversation I'm in. And I'll say that to the kids, like, please just clarify this. What conversation are we in right now? Little 14-year-old. Sometimes I find those words really useful, talking to individuals that do have either like they have lateral power, not over me, but I may need them in order to action something. So it's like this parallel power. And then there's the people that actually do have power over me, as far as administrators, system leaders as such. The distance sometimes to actually get to that honest conversation you're talking about. I think I've stopped expecting honesty, and I think just kind of leaning more on what's true. And the reason I feel better about that is that if you just tell me what the truths are, then I'm going to have to make a decision about what my next action is. So tell me what's true. Is it true that next year I will not be going into guidance? True. Is that honest? Don't know, because honest has layers to it, right? They might not being honest. There could have been an opportunity, but what I'm trying to get is a concrete, what is the next thing? What is the consequence of, like, what is the consequence here? Is it true? Is it true that I'm going to have to move to another classroom? Yes. So, okay. Now I know what I can work with. Is it honest? Don't know, because I don't know what they're holding back. I don't know what was on the list, but what they're telling me right now, this is what's true. I find like it's a weird way to hold adults to their own accountability and in their own agency, as in person X, you have to make this decision because it is your decision to make. Do not put it in front of me to give you permission to make a bad decision. You make the decision, put it in front of me, and I'll react. Maybe that's the honesty you're looking for. Just put that thing in front of me so that I can react. Don't put the thing in front of me that will help me react better. Just put the truth in front of me and I will react as truthfully as I can too.
I appreciate you shaping it that way, because it helps me see it differently, helps me make connections. Gary and I were talking about this last night. How do you I'm kind of a planner. I like to plan as much as I can. How do you make plans when people don't tell you the truths? Right? when people, and I'm not saying this right now, that, people aren't being truthful for me, people aren't being honest with me. I'm just saying that it's important for me to understand w- my puzzle piece in the big picture. Where do I fit in? If and they may people may not know. They may say, I don't know. I haven't considered that exactly or whatever. And then I would say, well, if you're the person responsible for this, and you're the person that gets to make these decisions as part of your role. I'm asking you to think about my place here. Can you please reflect on that? And then can we have a conversation about that? Because I'd like to know kind of where I stand so that I can decide what I want to do next. And I even told you in our conversation in the on ramp that, man, I like my job, but I feel it's such an unstable place, which sounds so weird to say out loud because the work I do is necessary. It must be done. It must be done. There are legal obligations, students require things. And so somebody has to do IEPs. It has to be done. You can't escape it. But part of doing that work means you never really know where your schedule lands and how it lands. And I know people who have heard me at work are like, can you just shut up now? And I'm like, I get it. I get it. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying I'm learning how this works. But I also have seen enough and understand enough that somebody else's schedule is way more stable year to year than I feel mine is in the role that I do. That causes me some difficulty because it's not the way I want to roll. And I'm open to the unpredictability. But then it's like, can we just keep talking about what this continues to look like and how it evolves? Because there's ways about it that if you flip it one way or another, I may decide, oh man, I don't want to do that. And I don't want to do that because I have no interest and I don't think I'd be effective. As it stands now, and what I'm scheduled to do next year, I feel that I feel like I have some knowledge and understanding and I can be more effective than I think I'm being now. And I said that the other day and I laughed because nobody's walking around saying you're not being effective, Roland, or you really need to work on this, Roland. Nobody does that. So it's like, you know, I think I'm effective, but nobody's going to tell you you're not effective. They don't do it like we don't operate like that. And when somebody does that, then they're a bad person. You hurt their feelings. You told them they weren't effective. If you don't tell me anything negative, then I'm going to assume positive. If you don't say, hey, I noticed that this isn't up to snuff, to me, it's up to snuff because I don't know any better. I don't know any different. So that's tough. It's tough because people are like, well, how are you doing? Well, I'm doing okay. I ask questions when I don't understand something, but am I the guy that's always asking questions and annoying everybody? I don't know because nobody's told me. I kind of don't care. If you do tell me I'm annoying you, then I'll say to you, well, what can I do to ease that annoyance on you? Because I'm not purposely trying to harm you. But then tell me, how would you like me to learn the things that I need to know that I don't know? Because the incompetence is a problem for me. Me walking around knowing like, oh, there's a process that I don't understand. I just do X, Y, and Z every time it pops up, and I don't care if it's right or wrong. That's not good with me. I'd like to know, is this process a good one or is it a bad one? Most people have been telling me I'm on the right page, but again, they're probably not going to tell me when I'm not on the right page. And here and there, people have said to me, I really like it when you do this because it da 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 da. And I'm like, okay, great. I've got some feedback about how I operate in the Student Success Center. And what most of the people there are saying, hey, we really like it when you do this, because it does this, this, and this, and avoids these issues. And I'm like, awesome. I'm going to keep doing that as best as I can. And sometimes when I do something that isn't desirable, I know, because I think I'm okay at reading people's body language. So a student asked me to do something the other day and I did it. And then when the other monitor in the room looked at me and said, what's going on with this student? And I told them, the look on their face was, are you kidding me? I'm like, oh, okay. So that was a great moment of, am I backing what I just did because of my philosophy or my understanding? Or did I say yes to something for the wrong reasons, and now I'm getting feedback that, bro, a lot of junk can come from what you just allowed that kid to do. Do you know what the junk, like, do you know what can come from that? Because once you know, you're never going to do it again. Trust me. And so then when I said to the kid, so the kid did the thing, and then they actually, it didn't cause problems. And I said to them, I'm never doing that again. They're like, why? I'm like, because I learned from the other monitor that letting you do that could potentially be problematic on a number of different levels. And I'm not looking for problematic. So I hope you, I hope it worked for you, because it's never happening again. And they're just staring at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I said my piece, we're good. And I moved on. I appreciate that. I'm not so insecure that when I see that body language, I get all upset. I'm like, oh, I need to pay attention. What did I just do? And I think I may have shared with you some of the things I've learned on the fly that I've never considered before. But the people I'm working with have been doing this job for years and have seen trends and patterns that I don't see yet. So inform me of the trends and patterns you've seen in one way or another so I can learn. So I'm feeling, as I'm going into exams this week, I'm feeling really good about the learning I've done. It doesn't mean I know everything, but I've seen some stuff and I've heard some stuff where I'm like, oh, that's why you guys operate like this. It makes sense to me now, because unfortunately, I've seen the burn or I've been burned. What I mean by that is something undesirable happens that could become problematic in a student teacher fashion. You don't want problems. If they come, they come, but you don't want to be part of creating a problem, or at least I don't. So there's another thing. People don't walk around saying to you, can we have an honest conversation? The way you're doing this is, I think it's a problem, and here's why. That doesn't happen. And I'm guilty of it too, because I'll say to you, I'm not that person's supervisor. I'm not policing them. I'm not responsible for them. And I've seen somebody model that for me in a really awesome way, that they recognize that they're not my keeper, but here's some information that you might want to consider the next time you operate this way. And this is why I wouldn't do this, but you're free to do what you need to do because you're the adult. Do you get that at your work? Do people walk up to you and say, "Hey, Clef, this isn't effective. Let's chat about that"?
No, they don't use that language.
How do they tell you you're not being effective? Or do they?
Uh, I, no one has ever used those words with me. Like no one has ever used the word effective, not effective. They've never used the word skilled, unskilled. They've never used the words wrong or right. Um,
What words do they use?
that's what
Where
I'm sort of that's
okay.
what I'm sort of processing through. Yeah, that's the question, right? And I think this is what I'm talking about, that liminal zone in our feedback loop with people that actually have access to truth and have to impose that truth on others. And we find really soft ways to say it that would be more palatable, but more vague at the same time. Um, Yeah, I don't think that I've encountered stable language that would account for um like quality assurance language. Even TPA stuff is kind of like non-specific sometimes, which you would think that would be the most specific. Oftentimes the I know I've done something wrong is when someone in power says to me, "Have you considered?" Or the other one, which is hilarious and true at the same time, "Walk me through your process." Now that can go both ways, right? That they're fascinated by the work that you do and they just don't really understand how you got from point A to point Z. But it could also be they completely disagree and they're just gathering evidence. So I don't know. Have you considered? I think is the middle ground that puts the onus on me to figure out whether or not I'm effective or not, whether or not I'm correct, whether or not my understanding of the law and the job that I'm doing is on point. Whether or not, me choosing right over left or zig over zag. I think have you considered is also the way you could end that. Have you or would you consider, "May I offer you?" That's the other thing too. Here's an offering. Have you considered can be really powerful if as a leader I say to you, "Roland, have you considered the implications that you are of you being completely wrong in your lesson design?" I think that would be a really professional, still kind of euphemistic. Roland, have you considered the negative impact of your communication, your communication, um, or the framework with the parents? It's still euphemistic. They're still not telling you they straight up disagree with the way you're running your shit, but it still feels a little more truthful because you're sitting there like, "Whoa, they don't like what I'm doing," which you can still, decide whether or not that's gonna create change for you, but at least you know where that person stands. Yeah,
And
I don't
I'm trying to move away from being friggin', what's the word?
vague?
No, the shock and awe and
Oh,
of somebody telling me or insinuating that maybe I should operate in a different way and being all, like, offended. I'm
mm,
really working on moving away from that. 'Cause that's part of my immaturity, I know that. But it's like and I'll tell you, a couple of times this year, I have gotten I've been basically told that what I was doing wasn't right in such a kind way that now I've changed my practice, right? Like,
mm,
I've mentioned this to you before that I'm a bit of a pain in the ass with certain things now because I know the right way to do them. And what I mean by right is I was instructed by my supervisor on a process that should be followed in certain situations. So now when I come up against those situations, I'm like, red flag. I've seen this before. I've been spoken to about this before. I do not want to be spoken to about this in the same way again. And not that it's a bad thing. It's just more like I've learned a thing. This is how you do this. And then people are like, why are we doing it that way? I'm like, because that's how I was instructed to do it by my supervisor. And then they're just looking at me like I'm nuts. I'm like, no, I'm not nuts. I'm telling you, I did it another way before, and I was provided with ideas and advice on why that way is not the best way to do it professionally, um, efficiently, effectively. So this is how I do this now. And I feel I'm such a jerk. It's that meme that I shared the other day of the royals uh from that movie, the vampire movie about in the 80s. I graduated high school and college before ChatGPT, and it's like this air of arrogance is the meme. Like I'm arrogant that I was able to
Mhm.
do that without using. I'm arrogant in those situations. I'm like, no, I can answer the question. You can all ask and you can all blah blah blah. I know the answer to this question. The answer is we need to do X, Y, and Z. And if you try to convince me otherwise, I'm going to politely ask you to go tell this my supervisor that, and then they can then redirect me on how to do this. It's like it's arrogance, and it's arrogance because I paid for it. My ego paid for it because I was told, bro, you messed up. You did this, and it's fine. It's over now. But now you know better, so we shouldn't see that again. And I'm like, noted, noted so bad that on my deathbed, I'll remember stupid things like that I've noted, but I won't remember other more important things about my life. So when if I'm in a meeting with seven other people and they're like, okay, well, what's the process for this? I'll be like, I'll stand up and I'll be all arrogant and be like, I know, because I messed up and I learned from my mess up. Now, I could get a new supervisor who says, why the hell are you doing it like that? That's tough for you because I'm going to refer to the last supervisor. And that's where that's where people will be like, man, you have no tact. I'm like, there's no room for tact. I was instructed on how to do this process. I was told this is how you do this by a supervisor. That's how I do it. And everybody's like, you're a pain in the ass. We don't want to do all this work. That's what's required. Are we going to start the process or am I going to do my part and you're not going to do yours? And then they're going to ask why. And I'm going to be like, I don't know. I did my part. I don't supervise the other people. I'm a complete dick in that way. And I love it because it's who I am. Roland, why'd you do it like that? That's how I was taught to do it. I was trained to do it that way. Well, I'm not doing it that way. Okay, that's on you. I've been doing that a lot lately. You do what you need to do. I'm not your keeper. But when this hits the fan and everybody wants receipts, I'm going to be like, you told me to do it this way. He disagreed, so he did it his way. So now you two, I'm not effing around. You two can go at it. I am not being dragged down because of this. I'm not going to be the scapegoat here. Pick somebody else today. It's not me. And
I've
I don't even like the language I'm using. I'm just saying I'm arrogant that way.
I
You
found a third space to stand in.
tell me about it.
Yeah, there's that, and so it's a variation on your moment. So and I love attribution in our job. I love attribution, and little kids will sort of often use attribution for their behavior. I did it because somebody else did it, or I made a decision because somebody else made the decision, or why does Jimmy get to stay up till 10 o'clock? I should be able to stay up like this attribution. It moves your sort of loci of responsibility outside of yourself in some ways. Um, and kids do it often. So one of the ones that I've been playing with lately, when I say lately, I'm thinking back to November when I was doing something with the IEPs, is that someone of the administrator asked why I was doing it that way. And I did have a very clear memory of a conversation that I had with one of our department heads about it. And my instinct was to say, so and so had a conversation with so and so, and they had mentioned that this is the way to do it. But it came out as, yes, I had a conversation with the department head and I chose to believe them. I chose to believe them. And it was funny because that particular move kind of stunned the administrator I was talking to, because now they are looking directly at the individual that they are disagreeing with. There was no third person in the room anymore. I didn't give them space to sort of wiggle away and say, okay, well, I need to go talk with the department head. You just make sure that, you do it this other way moving forward. They actually had to directly instruct me on what their truth was. And it had to do with the way I was doing the log, basically the IEP log we have on our board. They said, no, this is how it should be done. All right. But just saying those words that I chose to believe them owned my own mistake. If that's what they're perceiving. If they're telling me I made a mistake, you can't go tell anyone else about it. So now talk to me directly. What will happen now? What's the consequence of me admitting that I chose to do this? So I'm flexing on my agency, but also speaking from a deep seat of experience because I wouldn't have chose to do it. I wouldn't, and this is, I wouldn't, I'm not going to defend, I'm not sitting there defending why I chose to. I'm just saying I chose to. I could provide my whole resume in that conversation and the reasons why I chose to. I didn't. That was the second part. I did not defend why I chose. I just said flat out I chose to do it that way. And I just kind of waited. Because I didn't have another thing that I needed to talk to this person about, right? And they just kind of gave me some quick kind of advice, and then the conversation was done. But yeah, I know you've said before, like you're gonna say this is where I learned it from. Um, this is who sort of instructed it, who sort of said this is the format that we should be using. I'm starting to test drive something different because part of what I read in your statement about this is that you don't want to be held accountable for somebody else's bad protocol.
What
It's in some people.
100%, because
So
somebody has to create a protocol, and I've created some protocols this year that are sound. So when somebody
so
says, "Why do you do?" So Gary said, "This is perfect time for this." Gary said, "Doing it wrong or doing it differently from others." I've created some protocols this year that, at the end of the day, the outcome is what it should be, and I've customized it for me to get to that outcome. I do have an issue with accountability because I believe I've seen enough times that people aren't held accountable when they should be. And it's like, why are we ignoring? It's not about, like, it once was about punishment for me, but I believe I've evolved past that. It's not about punishment. For me, it's about learning. So if you're going to let Jimmy continuously do what Jimmy's doing and it's raising hell for everybody and nobody's addressing it, why would Jimmy change? You could even address it with Jimmy and he might not give a shit, and I'm doing this anyway. So for me, it's in the case I'm thinking about, which I don't want to come out and talk about outright,
mhm, mhm,
Gary, it was I was being informed I had done something that apparently I have a lot of power, like in what I did, like I hold power. And once you do it, it's hard to reverse it. So it was like, oh, I see what you did here, and I know why you did it. You did it because you were trained, but now you need to unlearn something and learn something new here to put in the middle of your protocol. To do what you did, you need XYZ. And to get XYZ, you need to talk to the program head, and then the program head needs to make a decision. And so there's this like tree of decisions and people. And I'm like, okay. I was very, to this day, I'm still very appreciative that this person took the time to educate me on. And it was awesome too, because I was asking more questions. I wanted black and white answers. They wouldn't go there. And I remember chuckling as I'm talking to them. They probably thought I'm crazy, but I'm chuckling because I'm like, you're talking in code. I just need you to tell me, like, just tell me this is a black and white thing. What do I need to do when I see this? How do I am I? And then I learned I wasn't the one to make the decisions. It was a collaborative decision thing. And that's where I become a pain in the ass, because then I bring it to a team and I'm like, hey, team, the next time we meet, we need to talk about this, this, and this. They're like, why? I'm like, because this is what I've come up against. And I've been told that I don't make those decisions. We make those decisions. Then they're all rolling their eyes. I'm like, I'm not being a jerk. I was told it was a collaborative thing. I wish I could make the decision. It would save so much time, but it's not my decision to make. It's a team decision. So here's the problem. And I know that I'm supposed to do this and this. Do you agree or do you disagree? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to go with what the team decides because I was told the team made the decision. I'm just not, I don't have a lot of room left for the bullshit of playing games and not, nobody saying, next time we need to consider this. Like, why are we messing around? And why is the team rolling their eyes at me? Why is this? Do I want to spend more time on something? No, but it's what's required. So, accountability, I was told in a very nice way that I did it wrong and that I made a decision I shouldn't have made on my own. And it was given to me in a great way where I'm not over here crying. I'm really excited and happy that I understand this process now that I would have never understood if I wasn't talking to that person at that particular time. But yeah, if Roland keeps making decisions that are not right or shouldn't be made on his own, somebody should tell me that. You don't have to be a dick about it, but you can say, "Hey, what's going on here? Like, I noticed these things." And then I'd be like, "Oh, well," and then I'd explain myself. And then they'd say, "Oh, I think moving forward, a better way to do it, or a more robust way, or however you want to put it, is to operate like this." Okay, that's awesome. Noted. And because I want to do my job and I want to do it as well as I can. Do mistakes happen all the time? Me and the other IEP monitor, we laugh now when we look at certain situations from the fall, and we both go like, "Oh my God, like I can't believe I did that." And then we're good with each other. I say to her all the time, I'm like, you didn't know any better. We didn't know any better. We asked as many questions as we knew to ask. We didn't harm anybody. We weren't trying to harm anybody. We were just trying to get the job done with the knowledge we had and the skill set we had. I said, now we know better, right? So we learned, nobody was harmed, thank God, but we know better. But we laugh because, and I've told you, I was like AI, man. I was in automaticity. Oh, this is in front of me. This is what I do with this. There was no room to think critically in some ways because I didn't know better. But now you give me the same situation and I take two steps back and I hit the brakes because too many times I've hit the gas thinking I'm doing this awesome thing to find out, oh, Jesus, Roland, why didn't you just slow down and look at the whole picture? And I'm like, oh, because I thought I was trained to hit the gas and go. it's it I like it because I feel like I'm in a relatively safe workspace where I want to learn. The people there, I think they respect me. They like me, but they respect me as a professional, and it's a safe space to make mistakes and to learn and unlearn. I really feel that way about where I'm at right now, which is really good for me. And hopefully it's good for them too. But my wife will tell you, I want somebody to drop a hammer. And sometimes I want a hammer to get dropped. But we don't have to be mean, but we have to inform, or else we keep making mistakes that are problematic. So, Gary, in this situation, I don't even know if wrong's the right. I did something without the proper justification to do it. So eventually it was going to be done, but it wasn't for me, I'm told, to have made that executive decision. And that's good for me to know. But I do become a pain in the ass because I know what's my decisions and what's not. And lately, there's been a lot of stuff landing on my plate that aren't a me decision. So I bring it to the people, and they're like, oh my God, I'm swamped. Well, this is a you decision, not a me decision. So, so again, call it what you want. I've passed it on to you. I did my part in this process until I get more stuff to do. It's not mine. And yeah, I'm going to be, I guess, a baby about it and be like, it's yours. Leave me alone until you give it back to me. Don't tell me I need to make more decisions. It's your decision to make. And then you fluff that however you like. Sometimes I think that's why I'm not in leadership, because I'd say to people, uh, if they give it to me, I'm not going to turn around and blame them for something not getting done if it was for me to decide what was supposed to happen next. That's on me. That's true leadership. I need to step up. I need to do my part, or I need to say my piece. And I've noticed a lot lately, man, people are, and I don't like this. I don't like this when people do this. They purposely give you something and they do it with glee, knowing that it adds more work to your plate. It's one thing to say, hey, this is part of your portfolio. I'm passing it on to you because it landed on my desk. For me, there's a difference between that and saying, I got this one. It's all yours. It's not for me. And I'm like, why are you acting like that? Like, we're all here to work. So I don't understand. To me, that looks like some kind of immaturity. What's up with that? That's just me, though. I try to be respectful when I pass things on to people where it's their part of their portfolio. I'm not like a jerk about it. Like, here, I just
Mhm.
had it. I'm just like, this is a fact. This is a truth. What I have here, this isn't part of my portfolio. It's part of your portfolio. So I'm passing it on to you. If you need anything from me, let me know. I'm happy to help how I can, but I'm not taking the lead on this. I'm taking the lead on 50 other things that is not in your portfolio to take the lead on. It's in mine. That's why we have portfolios, so everybody knows what they're supposed to do. I know I'm coming to, this is the black and white episode. That's what I would call this episode, selfishly. The black and white episode. The one space or the second space episode for Roland, not the third space
Hmm.
or the middle space or the out. It's the black and white. Sometimes I please just answer my binary question. Yes or no, black or white. I don't care if you don't like it. Sometimes I'm just telling you what I need. Because, well, don't we live in the gray all day?
Hmm.
My work and your work. So sometimes I just need an endpoint. Is it a yes or a no? Is it a right or a left? Well, it's not that easy. Yes, it is. Answer my friggin' question and then let me go back to the gray. Or you deal with it. Because I'm going to tell you how I'm going to deal with it and you're going to tell me you don't like how I'm going to deal with it. Yeah, man, I think that's now I talk like this here, but I think at work I don't come off like this. I could, but if I do, nobody's telling me, right? Because God forbid somebody say, "Man, you're really harsh these days," or "This black and white thing is really getting old." Nobody's telling me that. But here I am taking a risk talking about it on the internet with my buddy Chris, and for the AI to do whatever it wants with it. And for if I refer to this episode to somebody, come on over and check it out. I'm taking the risk. Whose binary questions? What do you mean, Gary? I hope Gary's not driving. Tell me what you mean, Gary. My binary questions. Sometimes I have binary questions. Just tell me yes or no. Left or right? Up or down, Gary?
I think that's also what I crave. I've spent enough time developing uh, whatever the back in the day we would have called a growth mindset. Um, so Gary, I like the point about choosing the voice of agency. Yeah. Um, actually, I'm not. So what I'm going to take from that statement is I also do everything I can to remind people of their agency. So, Chid, you're saying this is your portfolio. Yeah, I would say a parallel thing to that is reminding people that this is your decision to make. This was part of the deal when you took on this role. This is your decision to make. Your collaborative approach is consultative only. You have to make the call. What's your call? You do not get to say, well, the team decided, which is another killer for me. The team decided. That's like the whole reason corporations were established, right? So that one single person would not be held accountable for shitty decisions. The team decided. No, there was somebody on that team that said no. It was voted in a different direction. The accountability is if the team decided, if a decision was made within the team. Here's what the vote was. 3 people agreed with you, 5 people disagreed with you. That's why we went with that. So just over 60-70% of the group thought this was a good idea or thought it was a bad idea. So yeah, you know what? Guess this could have went in a different direction, but the team decided. Well, I get tired of that because I like to know who's making the decision, sort of pushing the button, you know, leveraging the next thing. But I've encountered that often. I'm not disputing the consultative thing. I think this is why, to a degree, where we started with the on ramp was, well, at whatever 6 a.m. this morning when I dropped that polo to you, is just kind of being um, amazed and fascinated by the chaos that comes with the end of year scheduling when people are getting their tentative schedules and just the buzz. The whole hive is buzzing. Like there's, these intrusive thoughts, not an intruder in the hive, but intrusive thoughts in the head. Am I going to be able to teach this thing? What department am I going to be in? And I mean, this is sort of like the third iteration of the schedules we've been sent, but it's similar. I know who's making the decision. They remind us all the time. The principal is making this decision. It is never the staffing committee, because the staffing committee, all of the non-administrative people are in consultative modes only. The person that decides the schedules for the school is the principal. The principal made the decision for you to have a dog's breakfast of a schedule. Now, dog's breakfast for you could be, dessert for somebody else. They're loving it. But the principal ultimately is the person. I like that. I like that binary. It is principal. It is not Jimmy. It is principal. That gives me very direct, specific, and information that I can use intentionally. I can go back and I can sit. Your decision was not helpful last year. To that end, I told you I had several meetings with the principal this year, knowing full well that I was craving some change. So, there was stuff that was offered. I said I would think about, but there was one part of the conversation that popped up where, because of my qualifications, I come in with hospitality culinary training, right?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't taught that in a little while. So in order for me to teach it again, I think I'd have to sign off our collective agreement that if we haven't taught a specific course in X number, I think it's 8 years, I have to agree to go back and teach it. So I would have to sign off on a letter. And if I don't, then they can't give it to me. Now, if they don't have another schedule for me, right, then what they offer me as a secondary might actually be worse than going back to that other teachable. We all have teachables that we're qualified in, and the stuff we would, and the stuff we would prefer to teach in. It's kind of like both are always operating. So the conversation came up about the hospitality. And it started off as, have you considered? I'm like, oh, here we go. Have I considered? And I said flat out to the principal, I said, you decide where I teach. It is your decision. I said, if you decide to put me to teach that, I will do an amazing job at it because I'm very good at that particular work. I said, and I will look for transfer. I will transfer. I will actively seek another position. I will not stay in that schedule. I will find another position somewhere doing something. And it's not that I don't enjoy the work. I just don't feel like that's where I want to be moving forward in my career. I said, I did do the follow-up. I said, being in the kitchen's hard on my body. My recovery time is longer than if I'm teaching courses. I said the actual shopping for it would impact my family time because I would have to do that outside of school hours, and that's just the reality. And I don't want to do that. And again, just I have interests in other departments that I'm telling you directly. I want to be a guidance counselor. So all of that, I will do the job. that you assign me, principal, and I will seek transfer, possibly to another school, because I don't want to do that particular course. But again, they're being them, they can choose. I'm being me. This is what I will choose. I was politely offering how I will move if this decision is made. And it's not a threat because part of it is just exercising all of our power. In the end, the principal could decide, well, you know what? I just need you there for a year, so I'm good. That's within their power. They might just need me as a placeholder. Or the principal could be thinking, Clough, you won't do a damn thing. Well, I mean, if you look at my career path, I've moved to stay in alignment with my interests. So that one probably they thought, oh yeah, he probably will transfer. So then I'll be in this exact same position looking for somebody else to fill the role. So I felt like I did my job of being in the exact right conversation and keeping the leader and the decision maker in the conversation and keeping it away from the have you considered? Because when he said, have you considered? I flat out just said no. And then we sort of sat there for a moment. And he came back in with the because I'm like, no, I listen. I'm like, yeah, no, no. So,
Have you considered, there's another
mhm.
good title for this episode. So Gary came back and said that sometimes we want black and white answers, but we know that from another perspective, the black and white doesn't exist.
I'll agree with you almost completely, Gary. If I just anchor this back in the individuals that are leading us, it is their obligation to carry the burden of that confusion. It is their obligation. And often the team decided is a way to offload that burden and complication and chaos. It's a way to distribute. We have it in our language, distributive leadership, which is basically distributive responsibility, which can also be diffusive responsibility. Who the hell am I supposed to talk to about this? Who do I go sit down with? Who can I sort of get who, so then you're trying to pick like these weird finite moments. Okay, well, who was it that mentioned it at the table? I mean, you can just, I get it.
Or
Yeah,
sometimes we use black and white questions in a moment to remove our
absolutely.
agency.
Absolutely. And I think like if Gary's saying that unlocks a negative side, sure. But I think that's also a clarifying agent in this. It's like just a really great face wash. You're like, no, I'm not gonna take on this moment here. So yeah, I will use black and white questioning when I am entirely informed and knowledgeable that somebody else should be taking care of something. Sure, we could say using it to sort of somehow avoid my duty, but you tend to not have black and white questioning when you're looking to actually be an asshole and not do something that you should do. That's not typically when we use black and white question. We use euphemistic, confusing, and broad and questioning to try and confuse, right? But if we're doing it directly, and black and white questioning is really tricky to do. Like you have to be really like smart about black and white questioning in order to hold someone accountable. So you're going to stay away from why and how questions. Stick to the basic, the what, when, where, right? Who, if it's useful. Stay away from why and how because those are considered open-ended, higher level questioning tools.
I want to say to Gary's point, if I'm asking a black and white question to a supervisor or even to a colleague that's lateral to me, um, then I'm still looking for a black and white answer about why that thing doesn't exist in their world. I'm still it. It's a situation that must be dealt with. So if you're my supervisor and I come to you and I ask the black and white question and you're like, "Whoa, that doesn't really exist in my realm." Well, tell me why it doesn't exist in your realm. Tell me then if you're the person in charge, and at the end of the day you're responsible for the decisions that are being made, whether I have agency or not, you're still responsible for me and for the entire school population. Let's have a conversation about that, instead of the euphemisms and all the BS that goes with just saying I never thought of that, or I didn't know that was a thing, or in my realm that doesn't exist. Okay, but I'm telling you, I'm in your realm, and this is what I'm bumping up against. I don't know what to do here. I'm thinking I could do this or this. And then you might pull a Clough and give me a third or fourth space, which then I appreciate. Done euphemistically, I don't appreciate. Just say, well, it doesn't have to be this or that. It can be. And then that response may provide me with some agency and some power and control. Then I learn and realize I have something I can contribute to this. Whereas before I didn't know that. So this year there's been a lot of that, right? There's been a lot of, how does this end? And then they tell me how it ends. I'm like, okay, great. So now that I know what happens at the end, then I can reverse engineer, and I can add space in there for my decision making and the work that I need to do to help get to that end. I know who the other players are that I may need to collaborate with or speak to or involve. You know how many times a student I'm working with all of a sudden has a question that is a guidance counselor question. I don't automatically put my hand up and say, stop talking, I'm not your guidance counselor. I take it in, and then I tell them, whoa, okay, that's a great question. I think the answer is, but you really should be talking to your guidance counselor about that, because that I have no I have no authority in that space to make these changes or to look into what's available or to even um, guide you and counsel you in a fashion that's appropriate, right? So it's not like I'm like, no, no, that's a guidance question. That's a great question. I've never thought of that. And I think, what are your interests? What do you want to happen? And then it's, well, in order for any action to occur, you need to speak to the people who are responsible to make that happen. I can't do that. Just like a guidance counselor isn't going to go into an IEP and start changing accommodations. They're going to be like, well, okay, it sounds like you may need this or this when you're writing a test. Let's talk to your IEP monitor. Because then when it comes to me, there are things I'm going to consider that the guidance counselor probably wouldn't, because they don't do my job. Now, if they had done my job before, then I'd be like, hey, like, let's talk about this. Tell me what you know, what you learned when you were a monitor, and how I can flex this or I can't flex this. But for the most part, they say, oh, you need to talk to Mr. Chidiak because he's the one that works in this area. He can tell us. And again, I've had some great moments this year where I've been in meetings and they brought me in because they thought that an IEP was going to be created. But by the end of the meeting, we realized, no, an IEP does not need to be created in this situation. And I actually had experience and understanding of some things to be able to say, this is not a situation where an IEP should be established. And here are the reasons why. And so, and then it's like, well, what do we do to help the student? Well, we move them to the student success teacher. So this is the student success teacher responsible for your child. I'm going to share what I learned here today with them. They'll reach out to you, and they'll reach out to your child and let you know how they can support the situation. But it's not an IEP situation. And I'm confident making that call based on the information that was presented to me today and the documentation that you've provided. Right. So it's like, I feel really good. It's black and white. I need certain things to create an IEP. If I don't have those things, I can't create an IEP. I'm learning there's always a way, this, that, or whatever, but it's always like at this moment with this information, this is not an IP. But if you've come back with other data, other information, then we look at it and we re-examine the situation, right? So it's not like the answer is no, go away. It's at this time, this isn't the right way to proceed. I'm not the right support person for you right now. Gary says seeking clarity is important and can define agency and provide a surety, but response doesn't necessarily need to be black and white. Gary, I'm sorry, bro. Sometimes, hey, as an administrator, you're dealing with all kinds of people. I learned that in PQP Part 1. You're dealing with, I don't know what it was, 7 or 8 different types of people that they can define. They all require a different way to be dealt with. And if you're a good administrator, you deal with the people that are in front of you effectively, right? I can't be black and white with an entire staff. That doesn't work for a certain number of the population that's in the building. It only works for the roll-ins, but for other people, it doesn't work. So if you were my administrator in this situation, I just say to you, Gary, I'm not getting what I need from you here as my principal or my vice principal. I'd like you to provide me with some direction. Even if your direction is not, to me, it's going to appear black and white, even though it might not to you. I need direction. Where do I go next? What should I consider? At the end of the day, is it my decision to make? Because I truly don't know the answers, Gary. And you might say to me, Roland, I don't know the answers either, but I'm going to look into it for you because I'm your friggin' vice principal. That's a black and white answer to me because I can leave the room thinking, okay, great. Gary and I don't have a clue here what's going on, but Gary's going to do what he can on his end to try to help me on my end. And I'm not doing that to kill time. I'm doing that because I don't want to do something and then find out that it's created harm for whatever reason. If it happens, um, if it happens by mistake, it happens by mistake, and everybody's honest about it. But if I do something on purpose because I don't want to, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to go talk to Gary. Gary never answers my questions. I'm just going to make a decision here. That's not cool to me. Gary says, yes, be transparent and provide direction. That's black and white for me, that I'm getting something from you.
I like that he introduces another controversial term. I'm choosing whether or not to engage with your language, Gary. I'll decide. Maybe this will come up at Foodapalooza.
This is a great time to shift to Foodapalooza because Gary was asking me yesterday, has Chris said anything about any of the places that we might go check out?
I'm on it. I got some stuff, but I was actually wondering about doing some diffusion of responsibility on this because we had talked about. I mean, it's now at a point where I'm an honorary Waterlooian, Waterlooian, Waterloolite. Well, I don't know what you call it. A K-dub? Am I an honorary K-dubian? K-dubugian? I don't know what you would call it. What do you call someone from K-dub? K-dubbin?
Now we're forgetting Cambridge. So we can't just dump Cambridge. So what I'm going to say, I'm going to give you a black and white answer.
Do it. What do we want to?
Something
because I just want the honorary. I want the honorary citizenship.
You are an honorary Waterloo Region.
Okay.
Individual, and I'm not Waterloo Region because we've been KW ignores Cambridge, then they get.
But is Cambridge considered like that? Would be Waterloo Region?
Yes.
Okay, so similarly, okay, so you as well, you're honorary York Regionite. Okay, so I've been there enough that I actually have a pretty good tack on many of the restaurants there, right? Like I know what I'm going to get. I know whether I like it, whether I had a good experience. So yeah, I can keep doing investigation on my end. But this iteration, which I don't know what it is, maybe 7 or 8, whatever number we're on for Foodapalooza, we're probably in that zone now where because it's evolving, right? There's some discussions that haven't been finished. One of them is whether or not we start saying, okay, if you're a part of this, e-transfer $50 to Chids or e-transfer, whatever. So we know what our sort of kitty is for going out, and we just do the single pay. We do the order, we do the single pay, and we know that once we hit 350, everyone's on their F&O. You got to pay for your own shit, right? We know that if everyone were to contribute, then we know we've got guaranteed we could have napkins, paper plates, cutlery if we needed it. Like it can go into that kind of a fund. Because this is now Foodapalooza it has a little bit of joie de vivre to it, right? Like it does have a bit of a momentum now. People hear it, they're like, oh damn, I need that. And they know it's, one part depending, coming from one of two pathways, either Book Club for Men or the Decoded podcast, people that we've met that way. So what I'm circling back to is I can send you some ideas. Absolutely happy to do that. Or we could just put into the chat, friends, put in your requests. Who do you think? Because I put out the criteria, right? Here's what we aim for. So everyone, just like Portnoy, the pizza guy, everyone knows the rules here. Everyone knows the rules of Foodapalooza now. It's there for everyone to see. It's black and white. Is it easy? No, it isn't. It's not easy always to fulfill. We've done our Dairy Queen, right? We've gone to franchise stops. We've done that. I'm sure that chicken place was a franchise stop that we went to when we sat with Carlos, talked about spirituality for a freaking 3 hours.
Oh, was that the Asian?
It was the Korean, that Korean fried chicken place. Yeah. So we can just put out to the group. Everyone, does a name, and it's if you're still down with the actual logistics, as in looking at what the path would be, and really it just comes down to fine. You put in your request, but if it's a seventh stop, well, I don't know if we've actually made it to 7. Maybe close. I think we've probably made it to 5 or 6. But then at least
that was rough going though. 5 or 6.
It was tough driving home. I was like, like I should have been taking the train home instead. So there's that, right? We can sort of put it out there to the group. I can give some ideas of stuff that, looks kind of interesting from my end. I got some ideas. So that's where we stand. That's kind of on my list for tomorrow. If there's a couple cravings, maybe I'll only put 2 cravings in there and then say, like, here's something this is what I want to put in my face. Boys, anybody else willing to make a suggestion? Are you willing to do the work to figure out if this fits for Foodapalooza? Because that's the other part too, right? You're coming in, you say, yeah, we really want to go to, Jimmy's hot dog stand. Like, don't pick that just because you effing want a hot dog. You got to pick it because it's like, it's got good reviews, like it's got some parking, right? It's got to fit the checklist. And it's got to be open. That's it. Check that too. You got to check that too. Is it actually open? Because we had that a couple times where the logistics didn't work out. There's that place on the list that we haven't made it back to. It was a burger place. After we did the hot dog stand, and then we were like,
the vegan burger place.
Yeah. We never made it out to it because the timing just didn't work. We couldn't get out of downtown Galt or wherever the hell we were. However, what that led us to was that amazing West Indies, the Caribbean spot, where you said was very close to it was close to something, and we talked to that mother and daughter.
Oh yes.
I think we had their doubles. That's where I introduced you to doubles, the chickpea sandwiches, and we tried some of their what were those candies they gave us?
Oh, they were like ginger or tamarind.
Ginger tamarind candies. Yeah, they're like, here, take them. So that was cool. One thing led to another, so it was good. So that's my thoughts on that.
Okay, so I'm gonna retort. So if there's 1 or 2 places that you're really thinking you'd like to hit when you come here, since you are the one traveling here, drop those in tomorrow if that's when you're doing your homework.
Yeah,
drop them in. And then you or I can let the team know, hey, this is what Chris really would like to get to. Are there any cool spots that fit kind of our rules for Foodapalooza
And they
and
can be
they don't.
spots that people have been to before, right?
Yeah,
Like
and they don't.
we're not forcing people to do the freaking do the research only in so much that it works for what we're looking for, right? Like don't roll in with McDonald's. Don't do that. We can do that almost anywhere unless there's something specific to the Waterloo region. But if you've been there and you're like, damn, I want to introduce this place to somebody, like this is a cool. That's how I checked out the wing place. I always forget the name of it. Where do we go for wings? That pub,
Morty's.
Morty's, right? And they do a good wing. It's a clean spot, right? Clean, well lit. The people there are friendly, well worthwhile.
Okay, so we've landed somewhere. You're gonna provide us. You're gonna
Yeah,
provide the troop with
yeah.
whatever you want,
Do you want me
and
just to put it in the WhatsApp? Just drop it right into there. Keep
yeah,
it simple.
just
Okay.
say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I would like to try, if it's possible.
Yep.
And then one of us will just say, hey, if you guys know a spot that meets the requirements for Foodapalooza, drop it in. Roland will map it out as best he can, and we'll go from there. And I'm going to give people a deadline because I don't want to be working on this
No,
Friday
that's exactly
morning.
it. No.
Um,
So let's say like by like Wednesday at the latest.
sure.
Like keep it tight, just off the top, like Tuesday even.
And
It doesn't have to be so scientific.
if people don't know of a ma and pa place, but know of a cool place with a cool experience they've had,
Yeah.
they can drop it in there. Like,
We tried to include that arcade. Remember the arcade was going to
yeah,
be on there and we never made it because we went to that. Was it the oh,
it was right beside
it
the
was the
Korean
African.
place, but
No, it was it might have been, but it was, remember we spent a long time at that African, the
in downtown
Eritrean,
Kitchener,
the
yeah.
Eritrean, and I think it was on the list that night, but we were there at the Eritrean restaurant for like an hour and a half,
Hmm.
which is a long time. That's kind of a long time for us in this process. It's fine, but that's yes to one, no to another, right?
I think it's important too to tell the group that, okay, we might have 6 places on the list. There's no guarantee we make it
Mm-mm,
to many of them
mm-mm,
because we have found ourselves in a good spot, having a great conversation, having a great
mm-mm.
meal. That eats up time.
It
So
does.
if people feel like we need to hit them all, that's a requirement. Like, you need to know that that's not the case. You also need to know there's so many you need to knows. Like I could just say, you could be like, I'm dying for a wing, and I'm like, okay, Morty's it is, where I'm gonna get the cheeseburger because I'm not eating wings, and then
Yeah,
it's like, it's just everything goes out the window. Or it's time for Dairy Queen. Like, I need some Dairy Queen
something
now.
sweet.
So yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's
let's.
fluid. It is fluid. It is fluid.
It's very dependent on the conversation, the people who come out. Like, I know Gary was telling me yesterday, I'm in. When you go to Clough's, I'm in. Just like let me know, and if I got nothing else going on, I'm in. So
Mhm.
Gary's like wide open to this thing, and other people might not be. They might look at the list and they might be like, "Well, I'll give this place a try." So I'll follow the WhatsApp until you tell me you're going to this place, then I'll meet up with you or whatever. It is there is a there is there are rules, but there's also a lot of room to walk away from the rules. It's like, we have a structure, but we don't always follow the structure for whatever reason. We're open to the flexibility that comes with an experience like this. Am I correct on that? I think I'm correct on that.
100%.
Okay. There's your black and white answer.
I appreciate that.
No problem. So, are we good for episode 35, 342? This is the last episode before summer school starts. No?
Yeah, it depends on how we roll. I mean, because
Okay.
only because like this year it's a little weird, right? Because we actually don't hit July
Oh, so for
until the
you, summer
just, you know,
school means July? Like, I'm just,
we haven't talked about it. But there's other things too that our next pod will follow our late night,
oh, Nikes, you're
right?
right.
So that's people might be sleeping a bit of those sweats off a bit. So we'll see.
Will we be sleeping the sweats off?
I think we've made it back to the table more times than not.
I think it's that's part of the tradition too, that no matter how beat we are, we would just end up back on. I mean, you're the one that's paying for it this time.
Soldiering in, right? Soldiering in. I think we've adjusted. Maybe we say, okay, let's do an 8 o'clock, or like we kind of, a little bit later, and we come in and do a shorter format, whatever. But yeah, I mean,
I
I
might
would
be
even
by
see, yeah,
from the fact that we just had this great night, the school year
yeah,
completely over, and I'm like, I can sleep whenever I want.
that is true. That is true. We are in that zone. So, but part of it is like summer school. We can say that that's the summer school, session. We can
I
start it. I have no issue with it because we have actually finished school.
But
Um,
in the way that you presented it, I don't disagree with you.
so we'll see. We'll
Summer
talk about
school
it.
can start in July.
Yeah,
Why
we'll see.
force it?
Let's see how let's see if we actually hit the mic. If we hit the mic, and I'll wait and see what you say. Because it could just be that you're dropping it in like, yeah, it's number
Oh,
343, first episode of summer school. I'm like, there it is. Okay, on we go.
there it is. Gary says, thank you for some good reflection. You're welcome. But Gary, I'm going to leave you with this. So maybe one day, Gary, you'll be a vice principal or a principal in a position where you're interviewing people for possible staff positions. And I think it would be absolutely fantastic if one of your questions was left open enough for people to say that part of their growth and development involves their podcast or their blog or their vlog or some really cool new way of saying to someone in a professional capacity, I do a lot of learning on the side. It's not from a textbook. It's not in an AQ course. It's not run by the district. It's this, that, or the other thing. And then they confidently and authentically share with you why and how it will make them a better professional.
The access point to that, like if you were to ask me, Gary, if you were to ask me, tell me a little bit about your professional learning network, both inside of our school board and out. To a less developed ear, you might need to also prompt it and say, for example, do you blog? Do you vlog? Do you do any creative do you explore any creative parts of your creative side that you have found have influenced, supported, and actually grown, improved student outcomes, student success? You can tie it around so nicely. But we don't hear a lot. I would say it's about a decade old. We don't hear people using the professional learning network acronym much. Now it could just be I've stepped away from using social media as a like receiving professional learning from social media. Like I find like do a lot of creative learning from social media, as that I'm seeking different ways to take photography, different ways to write, different ways to paint or draw. But I went through a phase where Twitter was everything. Like, and I made a lot of really great connections via Twitter. That I would say my professional learning network was I'm putting in an hour each week in discussions. I'm doing, what was it called? Twitter, that you could sort of do a live thing in Twitter. What was that called? I've even forgotten. Where you could just have a discussion, like it's an open air. What was that called?
Spaces.
Yeah, is the spaces. I was doing like spaces every other week about different topics, different kind of check-ins. I don't do that anymore. I would say now my PLN is very focused, our roundup discussions. But I have a whole body of work that it has never shown any interest. No interview has ever shown any interest in that. So I would totally agree, Chid. It's like this is still a viable question, and it's a really cool accountability question. It's also a question that elicits, does the person feel safe enough with you as the interviewer to offer up something as privileged, but also valuable. Because I'll tell you, if you're someone that's taking time out of your own schedule to podcast once a week and open those doors for other people to listen in, if you know, you know. Like the fact, Gary, that you're in the room with us for this discussion, I often wonder if you sort of think to yourself, like, man, like this is kind of whack that I'm sitting in on this conversation. This is like being able to be the fly on the wall, except we talk to the fly and the fly talks back. But I mean, there is an element here of being able to kind of listen in on professional conversations. And again, we've been doing this for 8 years now. Anybody that's ever been in the room, they've often said it's kind of like just sitting and listening in on a really good private professional conversation. So yeah, opening that space up, I've never had a leader ever, what I would say, reasonably or respectfully address the body of work that I've put in on my own time.
It's time. Like, so
It's
my
so
my
beyond. It's so
yeah,
beyond time. Yeah.
that's why, Gary, I hope, and I hope, Gary, if you are a vice principal and you're working with other vice principals and your principal on hiring, even just this, where are these teachers coming from? Like, if where are these teachers coming from, and what are they doing inside and outside of the system around their professional growth? What is it? Because at one point, like you, Twitter was bomb. I was, man, I'm proud to say this, international connections that were influencing the work I was doing in my classroom with my grade twos and threes. I was connecting with teachers in England who were doing wicked things around innovation, uh, video games, to get kids to write, particularly boys. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, it's such a niche thing, but I saw what they were doing and I read their blog posts and I had um, hangouts with them. England, Waterloo region. Can you believe this? Like, nowhere in my life did I ever imagine that that was a possibility. That was friggin' huge for me as an educator. It, so that came from Twitter. So let's not be so close-minded. And for God's sake, can we teach people, for example, if you're trying to become a leader, we have the pillars of leadership, the Ontario framework. For God's sake, can someone please say to future leaders, look, we need to hear about how you deal with these pillars, okay? You can do that by talking about your podcast and this and that and the other thing. If I see one more um, binder with artifacts and pictures of shit that you say connect to the pillars, I'm going to lose my mind. Is it valid? Sure. If that's what the candidate wants to demonstrate for their learning, sure. But can we open it up to something outside of a friggin' binder? For real? Like, I have a blog. I'm not making a binder. So if I ever have an interview for admin, they say, tell us about your portfolio. Say, here's the link. And I know that the pillars are very important to you and to the world administrators live in. So when you read my posts, you'll see which pillars I've tagged in that post. These are the pillars that really apply to what I'm talking about here and the experience I had. If you need a picture of me standing in front of a group of people to say I did a presentation to the school staff, I don't have a lot of that. But I've got reflection pieces on leadership. I've got reflection pieces on things outside of school that I've done that make me a better leader and that can benefit a school community. I got all that there. It's not going to come in a binder. Sorry. And if it's in a podcast, then you'll have to listen to my podcast to see if it meets your needs. But this business of creating something so limited, don't be that guy, Gary. Open it up, man. I don't know what the kids are doing these days, the new people coming out of faculty, but I'll tell you, I'm sure somewhere along the way, somebody's told them, hey, you need to have uh, artifacts of your learning and your growth. How they do it, who cares? This is what I'll end on. We have 3 administrators in our board who do a podcast. Of those three, one of them is my principal and the other one's my vice principal.
Are they still doing it?
They are. But
Okay.
but now people in Gary's world, sorry Gary, I don't mean to center you out. I mean people who want to be leaders in the system, and the leaders in the system, all of a sudden, the fact that these three administrators are doing this podcast, everybody's like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." As you and I sit here for 8 friggin' years doing the same thing that they're doing, but all of a sudden it's accepted and it's okay because they're leaders in the system, and other their buddies are like, "Oh, well if they can do it, we can do it. Oh, that's acceptable." Are you effing kidding me? You don't have to learn from the person in the same role as you. You can learn from people above you if you want to perceive it that way, or below you. That rocks my socks when they're like, "Oh, we're doing a podcast." It was, "Oh my god, a podcast? People do I thought only celebrities do podcasts." And I'm sitting over here like 8 years of one podcast, and you both. It kills me that all of a sudden it's okay now because three administrators got together and started one. Don't be so friggin' close-minded.
I'll go a different route. I'm okay with the I'm not as mind blown by that. I'm okay with um this whole idea of spontaneous discovery, like just sort of noticing and kind of going at your own pace, noticing it. I think just the inclusion of it in the discussion is nice. There's always going to be, and we're not groundbreakers either. There were people podcasting before us. We have been doing it long enough now that we're part of the sediment. We're an official layer, sort of like a generation of podcasters is in Ontario. We have a cohort officially. What I find fascinating is I think back to like my whole PQP1, most of the work that I put into that, where we had to respond to some random ass article, I did video. And I actually got responses from people saying it takes a long time to get through your post. I was like, yep. This is how I learn. This is how I respond. Accommodate, work with it, enjoy. Because I'd be putting down like a 15-minute video response. And that's really difficult at that time. So this is like 7 or 8 years ago. We didn't have the tech to be able to create a transcript from that. Not really, not effectively. So even the teacher's like, wow, you post a lot of videos. I said, yep. I said, I've noticed people post a lot of text-based essays too. So did I type out some answers? Yeah, very few. Most of my responses were video responses. I remember telling you about this back in the day. They were not happy. So part of where I'm still, where I get mind blown is our narrow view of what actually looks like an artifact, right? A still photo, a typed page. Those are the cream of the crop. Anything else that I would argue is more vibrant, more emotionally charging, more provocative and engaging is the human voice in video. It is by nature. Is it slower? Yes, because that's the speed you have to move to take it in. You can't skim and scan a human being. Well, you can. It's not a great way to go through life, right? So, yeah, Gary, putting a lot of fuel on the fire. And it's just, I'm sure you'll get more of us when we sit together. We can talk this one out. But there's no longer anything really magical about what Chids and I do. It's quite mechanical, but it's a necessary grease to the mechanics of our working, like for us to sit here and kind of hash out these ideas. We both have benefited and we've both influenced each other. And I probably will guess now, 8 years later, we've probably influenced some thinkers, some people in education. I'd like to believe that in some small part, the fact that Jordan's doing a podcast is in some part way looking at Chids and the connection there, knowing full well. I know that in a small way, the one that my school board has is partially influenced by me, because at the time where they came up, I was already 3 years in and I had spoken to most of the people that the board started to talk to. So somebody noticed. We gave permission for somebody to think that way. or just sort of turn their head slightly to see something a little bit differently, and then everybody in their own time. It is quite remarkable, though, and it's actually made me wonder, like, maybe I need to come back to X for a little while and just see. Maybe it's time to come back through the neighborhood again. I've been away for a while, about 4 years, 3, 4 years now. Maybe it's time to kinda last time you got a crack up of this, I was, like, taking a holiday.
Mhm.
I was coming to visit for a little bit, and I spent a month on X. I think it was X at the time, or maybe it was just almost not Twitter. Maybe it was near the tail end, but I came back through and I started noticing and watching conversations and engaging with people. And I'm like, thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. I learned a few things. I'm out. See you in another 5, 6 years when I'm vacationing back through. Yeah, maybe I'll vacation. Maybe I'll put the X app back on. Are you still active there? Are you still doing things?
Active, no, I'm still there. I posted something the other day that caught my eye, and I miss some of the uh, I miss some of the I don't want to call them relationships, but I guess the digital relationships with people
Yeah,
who
yeah. Connections. Yeah.
get me thinking and who post good stuff. I miss that, but
Hmm.
yeah, it wasn't feeding me anymore.
Hmm. Yeah, I wonder. And I mean, I guess I could move Threads over to more of an educational kind of the algorithm keeps putting like garbage in front of me. But I haven't nurtured the algorithm at all. Not at all. So we'll see. Gary, thanks for being a good sport. I don't know if you're posting anything up in the background or just listening. Rochelle, I don't know if you've come or gone, but have a fantastic, fantastic Saturday.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Gary and Rochelle, for jumping in on the chat, and for anybody else who's listening in or who did listen in, thanks for checking it out.
Or who will.
Or
This is
who,
a
yeah, who
thanks
will.
thanks to the future. Thank you for I guess it's even in the future it'd be past tense, wouldn't it? Because no one's gonna start at the end of the pod, us thanking them. So yes, even you future
Thank,
listeners.
thank you for finding us, and please reach out to us and let us know how you found us.
And if it's in the future, maybe we're not alive anymore.
Shoot. Okay. Gary, Gary says, I like these conversations. They help me grow, but also provides me with space to engage in conversation
Mhm.
with Brave.
Yep.
Yeah, man, it's great. It's great.
It's what keeps me coming back on Saturdays.
I think for me, it's just muscle memory.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Mechanical muscle
it's
memory.
7:45. I need to
Go,
go to this
go, boop,
computer and I need
pop,
to do
beep,
certain things.
coffee, coffee, coffee. Yeah.
Coffee, this, that, the other thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. Well, have a great last week of school to
Thank you, sir.
to you and any Ontario listeners. Have a
Best
great
wishes to
week. Yeah.
everybody else in your tentative schedules for next year.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
May they firm up in your favor.
And hopefully we'll be back next Saturday after a night of Foodapalooza and camaraderie. Yeah, that's it for now. Okay, this was season 8, episode 35, number 342 of the Decoder podcast. Have a good one. See you, Chris.
Peace, man. Ciao.